Hello, cost control students. Today we are going to do part 2 lecture, which is part of your online class for today of chapter 7. So we will just get started where we left off on the last class. And that was right around here. We got done talking about overtime, and let's take a look at some of these terms that we're going to be using in this lecture, especially later on when you guys are actually calculating. So payroll, that refers to essentially the salaries or the wages that employees receive. Okay, so payroll, that's when we refer to that rolling payroll or running payroll. You guys might have heard those terms in your places of employment. And that's essentially what we have. Minimum staff is a term that we use as managers to basically talk about what is the minimum staff level that we need to run the restaurant effectively. So nothing extra, not adding a fifth man to the line, which we usually call them, or anything like that, but minimum staff. So in order to accurately serve all the tables, bar, how many people do we need front of the house? How many people do we need back of the house, heart of house, whatever you want to call it. So that's essentially what we have. These two are also different ways that we refer to payroll. So we actually have a fixed payroll and a variable payroll. And the reason that there are two different ones is that the fixed payroll refers to the amount that we pay out in salaries. Essentially, whether those people are in the building working or out of the building working, we pay them the exact same amount. Also, efficiency wise, right? It doesn't matter what their output is, how efficient they are at their jobs. If they are on a fixed payroll, we have to pay that. As managers, we typically do not have a lot of control over fixed payroll. We really have that only upon hire when we decide to offer a salary to a specific person. But later on, if we hire them at $80,000, we have to pay them $80,000, in per paycheck, whatever that calculates out to. Variable payroll, we have a lot of control over. This is actually the amount that we pay out in hourly. So whether I schedule 3 people to work or 2 people to work, that's going to definitely affect how much I have to pay out in variable payroll. So very different as far as management, where that comes out of. So as we talked about, labor expense is not just payroll. These are, costs that we've discussed at length last class. We talked about FICA, insurance, 401, retirement plans, any type of paid bonuses, vacations, whatever it is. That is not necessarily payroll, but that all relates and bundles into what are actual labor expenses. So we started talking about productivity and how we calculate that, and if this is something that we should find effective, and if something that certain companies use. And essentially what this is a way of calculating. We're trying to calculate, I apologize, how productive some of our staff is. Now, is this the best way to measure productivity of employees? Probably not. I mean, as a manager, you probably should have other metrics than mathematical ones to see if your staff is productive. But this is definitely one way of looking at it. So we can actually look at what somebody's output is versus what somebody's input is, and then talk about the productivity ratio. We could also look at this as something, if we are producing buffets and salads, and how many salads somebody can produce, or how many desserts somebody can produce in a specific time period. So this is just one way of looking at how to calculate productivity ratios. Also great examples of this in your book. But as I said before, I mean, productivity is something that we as managers actually control a lot of, depending on your staff and your involvement with the staff. But these are all things, and you guys can read them, but these are all things that essentially affect productivity, right? The type of employees you have, and that's up to you as a manager. Who do you hire? Are they quality employees? Are they, ethical employees? What type of supervision, scheduling do we have? I mean, your employees are not going to be productive if you're scheduling them for 4 straight doubles in a row, right? Do you offer any breaks or food or incentives to your staff to keep the morale up? How good is your food in your restaurant? If you're serving stuff that the employees don't really think is good quality, that's also going to impact what they do. So all of this stuff really impacts the productive workforce. When we talk about how you actually get the best people for your restaurant, or the right people, right? The best are not always the right. How do we get them in your restaurant? We have to make sure that we really, really take the time at this point. Upon hire, this is the one time you can literally cut your costs when it comes to labor. Because if you spend the time to hire the right person and make sure that this person will actually fit into your establishment, you can essentially cut costs down the road with, with anything having to do with, having to write people up or putting them on leave or just dealing with problems that essentially could have been avoided had the right person been hired. We really need to make sure that this starts actually in the hiring process. This is, when you ask a lawyer and or anybody that will tell you, how can I really prevent things when I have a disgruntled employee or separation issues or anything, or just even lawsuits within an establishment. They actually tell you it starts with the hire, and it really talks about, how prepared are you to hire a person? Do you have the right job description that describes exactly what the job that you need this person to do? If you're vague, then the person's not going to know exactly what the job is. So they might apply without being qualified, or they might say, oh yeah, I think I can do that. But if you're very specific in describing what that person has to do and what that job entails, right? That's something that will actually itself weed out potential candidates. Job specification, you're describing the qualities of the person or the skills of the person that you need. Same thing here. This is where you have the ability to literally screen people and say, you either have these or you don't. So you need to make sure that this is something that either you do really well or you hire somebody to do, probably with a lawyer or with a law background, so that they actually know that. Okay, so once we have this, typically, how do we start the hiring process? So you typically have an application process. Most companies have this online, and we'll talk about why. Then you will have to conduct some interviews, some pre-employment testing, background checks, typically criminal, but also a lot of restaurants are doing like financial background. So they'll literally run a background in person to see, is there some, how good is your credit, right? Because when you think about it, especially front of the house, these employees are they're utilizing other people's credit cards or cash or whatever it is. So we want to make sure that you should be in good standing. And then reference checks, they're not done enough. So application processes, every employee that comes and seeks employment in your establishment has to fill out an application. This is legal because according to the Department of Labor and the EEOC, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, every establishment has to hold applications on file for at least 1 year. So that means that every single person that comes in, they actually have 1 year to file that there was some sort of discrimination against them during the hiring process. And the first thing that anybody in the investigation will do is they're going to come to your establishment and say, where is this person's application? And you have to have that. That's why most companies now do them online, so that they always have that on file. During the hiring process, this is, questions are heavily regulated. The EEOC, if you go on their website, has an amazing, list of kind of these like can and cannot do things during interview processes. This is something that has to be adhered to. Even if you don't know about this, if you are sitting down or if you are sending somebody to sit down with a potential candidate, this is something that needs to be reviewed before they actually do so. So any question that is asked in an interview, regardless of, you're just being friendly or you just want to find out more about the person, it has to directly tie back to the job. So even a question of, where did you grow up? And it's a genuine question and you're just asking because you want to get to know the person, you actually cannot ask that question, because a question like that could actually, by somebody, be used as a discriminatory topic and potentially not hire somebody because of where they grew up. Now you can ask questions, blanket questions, such as, tell me about yourself. And then that whatever the person chooses to reveal, that you can ask a follow-up question if, once again, it relates back to the job that they will be doing. So, you have an interesting name. How did you get that name? That's an inappropriate question. You cannot ask questions like that. So unless it directly ties to the job that the person is applying for. BFOQs, bona fide occupational qualifications. There are some restrictions as to things that you can and cannot say. And there are places or different, items that you actually can discriminate on. So in our hospitality industry, we have one thing that we actually can discriminate on, and that is actually age, but not the age that you might think. When hiring people to handle alcohol and alcohol sales. In specific jurisdictions, you have to be 21 years of age to actually serve alcohol. In certain places, you can be 18 to serve alcohol, but that also means that potentially you cannot hire a server to be, to be a server if they are 17 years of age. So that is something where we actually are discriminating based on something that is legal, and that kind of falls under what we call BFOQ rules. So these are there are other industries where they have other specific ones, like if a church is hiring a priest, they can discriminate against other religions. So that those are kind of things, there you can discriminate. We cannot in our industry discriminate against people's religions. So that's something that always comes up. People ask me, they're like, well, what if, somebody goes to church on a specific day and you need that, can you ask them, do you go to church on Sundays? And you cannot. But what you can ask is you can say, are you available to work on Sundays? Because our employees, we are open, 7 days a week. So those are things that you can ask, but not relative to, is it specific religious question? When we talk about the, EOC guidelines, like I said, this kind of gives you an idea about the fact that you cannot discriminate, even starting with a job advertisement. So this is something that you have to be very careful with. Like I said, the guidelines on their websites are really, really good. This is more information that should ever be on a slide, but it just gives you an idea. You can read through it and just gives you an idea about just really how specific these guidelines are, and the fact that a person that is dealing with, you're acting as HR, as human resources when you are interviewing. And there are some places where you might work where they will have a human resources team. But for the most part, there are a lot of places where managers are tasked with this themselves. Other things during interview that we deal with are hiring and pre-employment hiring. Sometimes we do a skills test where potentially we ask somebody to come in and actually do a realistic job preview, right? We say, hey, why don't you come on in and show us the skills that you're telling us that you have, whether that's in the kitchen or somewhere else. Now, these actually have to be paid. So you do actually have to pay out a person the minimum wage or whatever it is. It doesn't even matter what you're going to be hiring them as. You only have to pay the minimum wage to do something like this. But actually, it's a pretty good idea to do. It's worth the investment. Some companies do psychological testing. Some people do pre-employment drug testing. All of these are costly. So this is something that probably should not be done on the first interview. You should do a first interview. And then if you deem a person that could be a good candidate, then maybe it's worth the investment after that. As far as hiring and things that are usually kind of skipped and they shouldn't be, something that's really, really easy are background checks. In this industry, I mean, while it seems very, very big, the people that work in the industry, everybody knows each other. So honestly, pick up that phone and call that person's last place of employment or several last places of employment, and you only have to ask one thing. And the one thing you ask is this person rehirable? Right? Because if they're a fantastic employee, whenever you're going to call and you're going to, they're going to tell you, oh my God, fantastic, blah, blah, love them, great. But if the company that you call and they say, we are not allowed to disclose any information about our former employees, they're actually, that's right. They don't have to, but they do have to, or they are obligated to tell you one thing, and that is if they are rehirable. Now, obviously, there's many different reasons why people separate, but also remember, if an employee gives you a background as a reference, I mean, they know what happened at that place of employment. So for the most part, they should be giving you, or at least telling you about what happened at that, in that past job. Let's say that. If you do not do any of this background, if you don't do background checks, if you don't call the references, and then ever there is a problem at the place of employment, you will be held liable as the employer, as the manager. It's something that we refer to as negligent hiring. So if you did not do your due diligence in making sure that the person that you're hiring is actually qualified, and something happens, there's assault or a fight or something and somebody gets hurt or whatever, you as an employer can actually end up being responsible for negligent hiring, which is actually really, it's very, very important to make sure that you do your due diligence as an employer to ensure that you are hiring the right people.